Introducing the lightweight champion of the world, standing 6'4", hailing from Cleveland, Ohio, the one, the only, Slim Pickens. Warning to all you Bobs and Karens, this show includes adult language. Viewer discretion is advised. You are now tuning in to the Slim Pickens Podcast Show with your host, Jimmy Jam Jarulo.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode. My guest today is Mr. Paul Brown from the UK. Welcome, Paul. How are you doing?
I am excellent. Thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. What time is it over there right now?
We're talking about 10:15, so
in the morning?
I'm about to go to bed in a minute, but there's no football on tonight, so it's an early night.
Oh, you're at 10 at night. Right now we're recording. It's 5 p.m. here in Cleveland, Ohio, and you're over in London, England. Correct?
That's correct.
What part of London?
1 mile away from Buckingham Palace.
Oh, okay. Okay. What's going on in Buckingham Palace?
Well, the last time I looked, the Queen is not in the building at the moment.
You got any word on that?
She's definitely not in the building.
That's what we hear. That's what I'm reading on Twitter. We're trying to figure out what's going on over there, man. Any inside information?
Yeah, she's... I think she's out in Windsor at the moment.
Wow. Well, for those listening that are joining us, Paul here is somebody that I got hip to through social media because I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and I am a Browns fan. So Paul started popping up on Cleveland timelines, like anything Cleveland Browns and videos. Excuse me. So I started following him, and it turns out Paul is from London, England, and is a huge Cleveland Browns fan, which I love the Browns, but if you know any history of the Browns or you grew up in Cleveland, you start to question anybody outside of Cleveland as to why they love the Browns. So I started following you about a year and a half ago, and it was really your love of the Browns, and that was the first thing I wanted to ask you is, like, coming from London, England, where did this come from, Paul?
So it all started about 20 years ago. I was buying American football gear, and instead of buying Raiders or Patriots, I went with the Browns with my surname. So I was wearing Browns caps, and I'll be honest with you, 20 years ago, I wouldn't know if that was baseball, ice hockey, basketball, or soccer. I just bought Browns caps, and that's where it all started.
So it really started because of your last name?
Correct. And that's where it all, I didn't want to wear a Raiders top or a cap. I wanted to wear a Browns cap, and that's where it all started.
That's brilliant. I really thought that you had some that's funny. So what age were you when you finally started to actually get into who you were wearing?
Probably about 5 years ago when we started doing drafts in our office, and the guys saw me wearing all the gear, and as we say in England, had all the gear and no idea. So, basically, at that point, I realised I had to learn about what was going on in American football, and every night I'd come home from work and just YouTube learn about American football. All the positions, all the history of the Cleveland Browns, and it's probably been 5-6 years of following the Browns intensively every day.
I got to ask, are you at this point, after following and after the history of all the football, what are your thoughts on the Browns? Like, are you happy that is your team, or do you kind of go, maybe I should have downed the Raiders, 5 years, 6 years ago, or back when I was a young lad?
I think a huge difference between the UK and America is we are super loyal. If you pick a team, that's your team, through thick and shit and good and bad, you stay with your team. So, I'm always Cleveland Browns.
Right on. I mean, that's how we are here. I mean, it's kind of a joke when you go outside of Cleveland to anywhere in the country. You know, people will ask me, where are you from? And I say Cleveland, and a lot of times I get the jokes like, oh, I'm sorry, or, you know, some type of joke. And it's just like, I'm not. I'm from Cleveland. I'm proud. I'm happy. This is where I'm from. And then when it comes to the Browns, it's just like, it is what it is, man. And people always are like, that's tough. And I'm like, it is tough. I'm like, but at the end of the day, when you're born in Cleveland and you're a Browns fan, it's just what you got to deal with. Like, I'm not jumping ship. Like, you can't. You can't go root for another team if you were born in Cleveland and you're a Cleveland Browns fan. No matter how sad the season is, no matter how bad it hurts, you're still, at the end of the day, you're a Cleveland fan.
Yeah, got you.
Now, do you follow soccer or football over there, European football?
Yeah, as I'm on your podcast, we call it soccer. Yeah, I support Chelsea.
Chelsea?
Yeah, Chelsea's my team.
Right on. Now, do you have a preference to one or the other?
That's a good question. I enjoy both. I probably get more excited about American football over soccer.
Right on. Now, I noticed that you come over here to Cleveland, Ohio, for quite a few games, actually, during football season.
Yeah, I try and come over 4 to 5 times a year. Last year I came over 9 times.
That's crazy. Do you like it over here?
I love the American food. I love the culture. I love the people. It's a great thing, and I really enjoy coming over to the States.
That's awesome. What? So you said that when you come over, you generally stay in Lakewood. You have friends over there?
Yeah, John Walsh in Lakewood is a friend. He puts me up normally, but yeah, sometimes I get a hotel in Cleveland. Sometimes I stay at friends' houses. Yeah, sometimes I just fly over with no accommodation booked and just go totally rock and roll.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'll tell you right now, my friend, after this, anything you need, just hit me up and let me know you're coming if I'm here in Ohio, in Cleveland. But these people that, like, how did you make those friends? Are those friends, like, because of the Browns and because of you following? Like,
most of my friends in Cleveland are through the Browns. And I've got one interesting story. Was in 2016, I bought a dog from Mansfield, Ohio, and then I brought it back to London. So there is some more connections with Ohio than just the Browns.
That's awesome. What kind of dog?
It was a Bernese mountain dog mix of a poodle, so Bernedoodle, I think it's called.
What'd you name it?
Rooter, because we bought off a Rooter on the internet.
Okay, all right. So the other thing, too, besides that you just being a huge football... Well, let me ask you this. What's one of your favorite stories so far? Like, coming over here and catching a game and down... Like, you've gone to the tailgating? You've tailgated?
Probably my favorite story is Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. I bought a flight, and literally I bought a 24-hour flight in and out, but they changed the flight because of flexi time. So basically I had to fly in, I had to leave at half time to get my flight home. And yeah, basically we were losing at half time, and by full time we lost, but second half I was in the airport drunk as a skunk and basically just watching it in the airport, and it was amazing that I was in the stadium and then I was on my way home and I was watching it in the airport, giving all the locals in Baltimore a load of abuse that I'm a Browns fan.
So you literally flew in for one half of a game.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, I did like I liked your IG stories during the season when you were in the airports. The hot dog, or was it the hot dog in Chicago?
Yeah, that was in Iceland.
And just the different things of you going around, and it's just fantastic, just great stories. Anybody listening, you got to check out Paul Brown on IG and his stories. The other reason then, excuse me, was that you're quite the chef.
Yeah, I enjoy cooking. I was a trained chef when I was 18 to 22, and I was trained and I was worked as a chef. but I realised there was more money in other industries. So I love food, I love cooking, but when you start doing it commercially, I kind of lost the passion. So I've kind of done the same with my podcast. I've made sure that my Cleveland Browns podcast there's no money, so I don't charge anyone. I don't want to make a penny out of doing it, and that's because I don't want to lose the love for doing something. I think as soon as you start charging and paying for things, it starts turning into a business, and then you kind of lose that passion.
Agreed. I see that totally. And that was the other thing I wanted to mention, is that you do have a podcast dedicated to the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I believe it's the second most downloaded Cleveland Browns podcast out there, non-Cleveland Browns. So it'd probably be the third most downloaded podcast out there at the moment.
Right on. What's the name of it? Let people know.
It's the Paul Brown podcast. So at the moment we're weekly, but yeah, during the season we go daily.
And they can find that pretty much everywhere?
Yeah, just go to Paul Brown podcast. We've had Joe Thomas on, we've had Eric Metcalf, we've had the owners of the Cleveland Browns.
That's awesome.
Yeah, who have we had? Zagura on multiple times, Bo Bishop. Yeah, we've had a few Cleveland Browns players on. Scottish Hammer, Joe Schobert, I know he's left, but yeah, loads of good guests.
That's awesome. So what do you do because you're a vlogger, which is, I mean, do you do more than just, like, for those listening, Paul cooks, if you watch his videos, he cooks, and it's amazing. And what you've been doing through this quarantine has been donating meals to the local hospital there by you, correct?
Yes. Yeah, so at the start of the lockdown, I thought, what can I do more for the hospital and the staff? And someone reached out to me at the hospital, said, can you cook for our hospital? And I said, yeah, sure. And they said, can you cook 100 meals? And I was like, no. But then I didn't say no. I thought, sod it. If the hospital doesn't moan about all these coronavirus people, I shouldn't moan. And I said, I'll cook you 100 meals. So I cooked them 100 meals, and then I said to him, next time, let me do 50 a day for you guys. And I've been doing it for the last 3 months, every single day, cooking for 50 staff every day.
That's amazing. Now, how are you able to, you get donations, people have helped out with you to be able to do this?
It's a mixture. Some people, companies will donate £100, and then with the £100, I will go and buy and cook. Today, I use my own money. Tomorrow, I use my own money. It swings in roundabouts. So, my view is, I would spend $30-40 a day on food anyway. If I can bulk buy and cook for the hospital, then I'll do that. And I'll eat with some of the money.
That's really cool. Now, how long are you going to keep? Is this going to keep going until they lift the? Are you guys like? What's the deal over there? Are you guys still kind of in quarantine, kind of lockdown? Like,
yeah. So the situation over here with lockdown is we basically we're now allowed to meet people in public. Restaurants aren't open. Pubs aren't open. Haircuts aren't open. Nail bars, if you want to get your nails done, aren't open. So, yeah, there's a lot of things that aren't open, but over the next 10 days, they're going to start opening. So, yeah, let's see what happens. I can't travel to America at the moment. So, yeah, my plans to come and see the Browns this year are on hold.
Well, I mean, everything's on hold right now. We don't even know if we're going to get to go see him here yet. So, I think everybody's kind of waiting to find out.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy, eh? Crazy times.
It is. So what do you, I mean, I've watched your stories. I mean, you'll get in a car and drive, God knows how many miles out into the English countryside and then ride your bike and just go check. You're doing shit all the time. Are you somebody that just has to constantly stay busy?
Yeah, I don't really watch TV. I don't really sit at home very much. I like to work long hours. I like to keep myself busy.
What do you do professionally then, if I can ask, if I may?
I'm a drug dealer.
Oh, right on. All right on.
No, I'm joking. I'm not really a drug dealer.
I know.
I've got a video business, so I produce videos for people.
Baked Bean Media? Is that what that one is?
Yeah, that's cool, yeah.
All right. I like that name. So what is that?
Yeah, so basically we produce videos, corporate videos I've got clients in Chicago, New York, London, Sydney, and basically we just create videos, professional corporate videos for clients. So 1 minute, 2 minute videos, maybe to introduce a company on a website, for example.
Okay. So you do that as your quote-unquote daytime job, and then the rest of the time you're just cooking and biking and hanging out with friends?
Yeah, exactly. So with my job, the idea of the job is it's a lifestyle job. I work long hours, but it gives me the flexibility to do interesting things and produce content and, meet interesting people.
Fly to Cleveland for a game for a quarter or two? And then
so basically last year I had more of a corporate job, and this year I started my new business from January. So, this year's going to be quite interesting. I have been approached for some positions with presenting and media in Cleveland. I have rejected all offers at this stage.
Really? Why's that? Not to get into it, but are you looking to possibly move over here?
It's an option. So definitely doing the NFL season over in America would be a huge thing for me. It's just getting the opportunity correct.
I'm going to tell you right now, Paul, you end up in Lakewood for football season, it might ruin you.
Why is that?
It's literally packed full, because you're right there by Cleveland. Lakewood is literally, it's like a 7-minute drive down Clifton off the shoreway into downtown. And then you have bars that are literally packed on Detroit and Madison, up and down. It's just a huge, it's packed, and it's a hip, cool city here in Cleveland. And during football season, being a big fan and an Englishman, and I know you guys can drink because I lived over there. I'm just saying, Lakewood might destroy you after football season. It's no joke over here. We take it seriously.
Don't you worry about me, pal. I'll be fine.
I don't worry about you. I just, you look like a man that can. Believe me, I lived and worked in a pub out in Dorking, and it was called the Jolly Butcher's Pub. And I lived above it, and I worked it, so I got to know you guys very well and loved it. And that was the one thing that I was amazed by, was how well you guys drink every day and don't call it a problem at all.
Well, maybe it's a problem, but we just don't talk about it.
No, it's what it was I was standing behind the bar, and a bunch of the conversation came up, and I started laughing, and I said, wait a minute, you guys are in here 7 days a week. You don't think that's a problem? And they looked at me and they were like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, okay, back home in America, if you're in this bar 7 days a week and I see your face 7 days a week, every day, you're kind of an alcoholic. And they were like, what? No, mate, no, we're just social drinkers. It's social. And then I was like, all right, well, what constitutes an alcoholic to you guys over here? And they were like, of course, everybody has that one friend. And they were like, oh, so-and-so. When he has to have a shot of whatever to get out of bed. That's an alcoholic. And I was like, I just started laughing. I was like, you guys are insane. Insane. You guys can drink, man.
Different culture, but yeah.
And not that different. It's just, it's funny because, you guys can definitely kick it back. I don't worry about you. I don't think you couldn't hold your own. I just know how this city can work, and it can suck you in pretty quickly. So just a heads up. If you do end up in Lakewood, enjoy yourself. But it can be a long football season here, Paul. Long football season.
16 weeks? It's 17 weeks this year, isn't it?
I don't know yet. They were talking about it. I didn't read anything for certain to know and state that it's been 17 now. I know that they were going back and forth. I think it'd be ridiculous. But as of right now, it's definitely 16. But they were trying to add another one on. either way, it's a long season here in Cleveland. Winning or losing, we like, you've been here. You've seen it. Have you tailgated? Have you gone to Muni Lot and tailgated?
Yeah, Muni Lot's my favourite spot. When I tailgate in Cleveland, I always go Muni Lot.
Right on. Any crazy
7 o'clock start.
Jesus. Any crazy stories?
Bill's game went through a table. Popped a bottle of champagne on top of a old school bus in a Mini Lot. It's just man, I like to fit in and try not to be anything different with a local. Just have a few drinks and chill out, really.
Brother, if you go on his IG, you look like a local. You look like you were born and bred here. Do you have any bad stories? Hopefully not, but hopefully everybody...
Yeah, I've got one bad story. I don't really want to talk about it, but I'll give you headlines. I went for a jog in the flats on the last day when I was in Cleveland, and my car got broken into, rental, and it got towed away. And in America, if your car gets impounded because the police think it was unsafe, it would never happen in England. I couldn't get my car out for a week, so my car was stuck in Cleveland.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But, I mean, as far as, fans and people, I'm hoping that, from what I tell people, that you've been welcomed and people have been good to you.
Yeah, Cleveland's fine. Obviously, in Cincinnati and Baltimore and Pittsburgh. I've had some trouble in Pittsburgh, but otherwise all fine.
Yeah, you will. Those are, lesser class of people. They're not Clevelanders. So what's on the horizon for you, man? I love following you and I love seeing what you're doing. What's up next for you?
Look, I think the coronavirus has hit me hard in the aspect of what we can do from the UK and America. At this point every season, I have my flights booked and I'm ready to come over to Cleveland. I haven't got that this year because of the coronavirus. So at this point, I'm in limbo. And I don't like it, to be honest. So, it's just a waiting game, and I really hope the prices of flights aren't too expensive when it comes to buying the flights.
True that. As far as your IGs, your IG is what? Paul Brown-UK _UK? How can people find you? Did I lose him? I might have lost him.
Obviously, the legend of Paul Brown comes up.
You blanked out there. I'm sorry. You blanked out. I couldn't hear you there.
Maybe it's an internet problem. There's the... obviously, if you search Paul Brown, Cleveland Browns, the legend Paul Brown comes up. But yeah, normally my YouTube page comes up on my Instagram. Give us a follow. It's an open page. I'm always open to answer any questions if anyone's got. So just reach out to us, and I just want to finish up by saying, go Browns. Check out Paul's podcast. Check out his IG, his stories. You want to pick up any recipes? Believe me, I've picked up quite a few the last few weeks. Thank you, Paul. Yeah, man, thank you. Thank you for taking time out tonight to talk to us. I've found you a very interesting dude, and being from Cleveland and growing up here, it always amazes me because I know how hard it is. Anybody that's born and bred here knows that we don't have it easy, especially when it comes to other people's opinions. So to find somebody across the sea that loves this city as much as somebody that was born here, it was just really cool to me. So thank you so much for taking time out tonight and letting me get to know you a little bit better. You come over to Cleveland if everything is cool and you're coming over this season. I'm looking to move back down to Florida. But if you're here, Paul, please hit me up, man. Anything I can do or put you up or take you out and buy you a pint, I would love to. Jimmy, let's get some Jaeger bombs in when we hit town and have a great time. I love it. Cheers, mate. Thank you so much, Paul. Take care, Jimmy. Take care, buddy. All right, you too. Check him out. Go Browns. Go Browns.
We gotta go. But don't forget to like us and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Slim Pickens Podcast.